So yeah, I want to take a few minutes maybe, to take a look at the notes. I did glance these, just to make that clear. Like I glanced them very late Tuesday night or whatever it was. Generally really good. I'm gonna get further into it as we go, but like I absolutely think that there's much more for them to do. Every piece of this was great, but it feels partial. So let's go down the list. I'm gonna just do this in order because I don't know any better, and we're just gonna do it. Let's see. Okay, so like obviously like the major stuff is like they added the basically Wex Dust, official Wex Dust. Now I don't want to like present the illusion that it's like so simple as oh just like copy the dude's mod because there are always going to be issues with that. The same way that like remember how there was a fan mod for making like quote unquote fixing the rollback for Street Fighter Five. The issue is twofold on that. Is that with Street Fighter Five, A, it basically broke the experience for PS4, and B, the PS4 couldn't implement the fix in the same way. The same way that, for example, the Switch version, or even the PS4 and Xbox One versions of Dragon Ball Fighters are not going to have rollback. They're just not able to do it. There might be some great expense to get performance in line to do that, but it's very often not worth it. The same typically goes for implementing some random fan mod. There's always some sort of issue you have to deal with. Sometimes stuff you can't really discuss, and sometimes it's just like a performance thing or oh, this makes maintainability harder in the future or something like that. I tested a little bit of this like yesterday. My experience is basically that I was invading a lot of different areas. It generally was faster. It's hard to tell exactly how much better things are because when I stopped playing for a bit, probably at least, more than a month and change, 2 months ago, invasions had slowed down a lot, and I was focusing mostly on invading with a level 25, ridiculously broken item throwing build, basically stacking every stat bonus I could get. I had a level 25 character with, I would say, like plus 58 total stats, and I was getting good use out of all of them, especially for the flat defense at that level. Invading with that character wasn't much faster. There were lulls the same as when I last played, so I don't know if it's like the player count is so much lower, or maybe the amount of people who are invadable at level 25 is so much lower now. They've only evened it out with the change. It didn't feel much better there. On the other hand, with my like 187 character, the first character I made, the spellcaster, who's not like super well optimized or anything, that seemed a bit faster, but unfortunately you get some shitty places to invade. So a good example would be like, why do I want to invade open world anywhere in Liurnia? Because it's just going to be the same duelist sitting next to the whatever it was called, where Bogart or whatever his name is, Prawn Dude. Some of the places they need to disable though for invasions. So a good example would be like the small tunnel for Rykard. There's nowhere to fight, especially if you fight 2 or 3 other players, it's a kill zone. There's no escaping that. Not unless you're just a like close range, like blow people up kind of build. Same, I guess, would go for the path leading up to the final boss. It's the same situation. It's just a small. You're like in a cage match. You got nowhere to run with that. I kind of wish that you could disable invading in either open world stuff or legacy, like choose one or the other. Legacy dungeons tend to be like much more complex terrain, much more narrow corridors, more verticality and that kind of stuff. Higher enemy density, more places to work with, more traps, that kind of stuff. Open world stuff is just obnoxiously difficult as an invader. You have no safety to run to, no obstacles, verticality is limited. It might be easier now though, with having things like Stars of Rune being just, somewhat nerfed at the very least. We'll get to that in a bit. Regarding Vari's quest, don't know if I care less. I'd always do it willingly, just about right away. I only hesitated on my first playthrough because I just didn't want to deal with PvP until I had to. Usually, if I'm invading, I want to have a good build for it, and I just didn't. But I did see a bunch of people complaining that you couldn't complete the quest line offline, so that's a good thing. Also, I hear you can get another copy of the Great Stars from that. While I'm not a big fan of like hammer weapons, it's apparently one of the better ones. Speaking of hammers, this is not just great or ultra great class weapons. This is kind of a mix because great hammers are ultra great. I don't think there is a great class hammer, is there? I think it's like you go straight from maces to like, great stars or, giant crusher or something. I don't think there's a medium. Is there a medium hammer? My understanding is great swords and curved great swords have been pretty garbage throughout most of the game so far, so having those get buffed is fine. Faster rolling after most attacks. Luckily not the jump attack or dual wield. Strong attack and charge attack. I'm assuming this is just then for all great swords then. I think they haven't done the best job of actually they really should have indented this a bit better. If you see where's the cutoff? This whole section should be indented. is what I'm thinking. So less recovery after attacking, strong attack and charge attack are faster, which is nice. Guard counter, like this seems like they're trying to basically like do the same thing they did with Ultra Great Swords and hopefully not necessarily bring up that the crouching poke, because that would be awful. Increase the attack speed of great axes and reduce the time it takes to roll. Oh, see, these are all the same thing, yeah. These are just a duplicate. Next ones are intriguing. The rolling distance for a light equip load. Considering that you really kind of can't take a hit no matter what, and considering that you're not getting a ton out of high negation, I kind of almost feel like maybe I should be switching some of my builds to light equip, get that longer roll, especially as an invader. I kind of feel like at this point, it's like you need to just focus on mobility rather than saying, oh, well, you know, I'm going to get in there and slug it out with 3 people who can mostly one-shot me, each with just like, you know, a single hit of their weapon skill. Cypher Pata, don't care too much about that. I mean, I guess that's fine. I haven't heard any complaints about it. I thought it was generally pretty well regarded because it's a 100% elemental damage weapon. Then again, holy resists tend to be pretty high for everybody. So Glintstone, Pebble, and Dart, I noticed a bit earlier while reading this. I guess what it was, yesterday morning or I guess it was yesterday morning. They definitely needed to get rid of that guaranteed combo as much as I liked to use it. Damage is already really, really high. It's a cheap projectile. The range is kind of more along the lines of what I want anyways. If you go with Dart, the follow-up is much faster, but the initial projectile is slower. The charging doesn't really seem to do anything for me, though. It's not that great. Relative to how strong a weapon skill is, getting only the benefit that you would have as if it was a spell uncharged really isn't worth it. I guess considering it has longer range now, maybe it's worth charging now. You can vary up the timing for it, which is kind of nice. So the Bloodhound step, I'm somewhat familiar with. I didn't really read this too closely, but it's basically like, if you're medium or higher equip load, it's now much, much lower range, and on light equip load, it's really excellent now. I don't know if it's better than it was in terms of like distance or whatever, but at the very least, light is especially good now for Bloodhound Step. It's funny seeing these changes because this is kind of like a combination of stuff that I had recommended a while ago, because I was basically posing like, oh, well, you could make it cost more stamina, or you can make it go shorter distance, or you definitely need to cut the iframes one way or another. And I was also suggesting, oh, well, like maybe you could just say, oh, just make it to where the more you use it, it has diminishing returns. Even though I really don't like that too much as an idea because it means that it has different behavior as you use it. I typically prefer stuff to have continuous, consistent behavior, but it's fine regardless. Quickstep seems to have gotten the same thing. I would doubt that the range is any shorter on medium or higher equip load, but we'll see. Shorten the activation interval, so you can do it more and more then. I guess it's faster. So now I'm kind of wondering, like, maybe like super, super light builds now can kind of like shimmy very easily with Quickstep. Now it's a quick step rather than Bloodhound Step being Quickstep, but just better. It definitely makes some interesting propositions for build diversity, that's for sure. Decrease the damage and bleed buildup of weapon skill corpse supplier. Okay, so rivers. Okay, so interesting. So the blood attack, the waves, I was talking about this earlier, how, and I even posted on Twitter, like, I was assuming it was a typo or a bad copy paste or something where the blood waves are the exact same properties as the, like, hitting with the blade itself, right? So this basically means that, like, if you're just, like, very safely outpoking even spears with this ridiculous skill, you're not really going to do much with it. But if you're up close, you're going to do very well. I wonder if they shifted most of the MVs over to just the blade portion of it instead, and then just overall nerfed it a tiny bit. Stars of Ruin I heard about as well. That's fine. I mean, I'm curious to see how this is going to fare. Like, how is the difference in the tracking? I heard that it was something like the maximum tracking used to be 360 degrees, and now it's like 45 or something like that. But I don't know the whole of how that works. I saw a bit of it. It looks like it tracked on cast and then just kind of stopped all of a sudden. Like, the later portion of it would just shoot wherever it was. I'm pretty sure you can just kind of laterally move and you know, actually dodge it now. I'm not super sure if that's the case, but I believe I've seen a couple people try it on streams, and it kind of looked like that, but I'm not entirely sure yet. Fix the bug for the Lucerne. I'm guessing every attack of this thing now, I'm guessing this is meant to be like a scythe, where now it's just like, it just gets through everything. You know, not 100%, but, you know, like maybe like a longer range, more halberd-esque scythe, which I think is a good niche for that weapon. Fixed the bug, which made it harder for a two-handed jump attack with Bloodhound Fang to break enemy stance. I wonder what, is it an off by, is like an off by one type of thing, or a bad decimal point, or what is this? Like, I'm assuming that they just increased the poise MV or something, or the stamina damage MV, I should say. Fix the bug, which caused the effective determination in Royal Knight's resolve to disappear after using the parry skill with a dagger. Ah, okay. I had kind of ideas in my head that might be an interesting thing to do, like get that 80% extra damage before you riposte, You probably could do it quick enough too. I guess what you'd have to do, what, like parry, toggle off your shield, hit L2, and then R1? Kind of reminds me of like doing like either like burrito combos or any of that sort of thing where you do the left hand and then the riposte. Fix the bug when dual wielding axe and great axe would cause additional effects from spells, weapon skills, and items to not be applied correctly. I wonder if they just had bad status MVs or bad buff MVs or something. I wonder maybe it's just like they weren't even using them at all, and like maybe the animations were not flagged correctly or something. And then again, I don't think I see many people using dual-wielded axes and great axes ever. Maybe somebody who's trying to do like a Nefelli cosplay or something. I see like mostly the dual-wielding great anything I've seen has been Guts greatsword stuff. Like dual-wield, Bloodhound step, chase you down, and just like shield poke or jump attack over and over again. Which luckily will no longer be a thing. Fixed the bug when two-handing a halberd, which made it harder to withstand enemies' attack after using guard counter. So now I guess they have at least either poise is active, or they have more poise now. Fixed the bug which caused the physical attack affinity of some weapons to be different from the affinity listed in the description. So this is interesting. So like what do they mean by in the description? I wonder if the growth is different than what the scaling ladder showed. Fix the bug which caused the player to become more easily noticed by the enemy when wearing deathbed dress, even when crouching. Totally not relevant to me, but okay. Fix the bug which caused charge attack with flail damage to ally character when wearing deathbed dress. So that was something that Wooly hit on his playthrough, because it looked like he was hitting himself in the head with it when he goes to like spin the flail. I have no knowledge of anybody getting anything done with those weapons at all. It's my understanding that flails are like one of the worst weapons in the game right now. Fix the bug that caused HP to regenerate when switching your equipment to a certain type of armor. Okay, so the helmet thing has been fixed. That's a really good one, because that sucked to fight. It was like, yeah, I got you most of the way down, you sprint away, and usually it's like somebody either like really, really dexterous with their controller, or you got like somebody who's sprinting with keyboard and mouse and just like clicking back and forth between their helms. Fixed a bug where the effect added to the weapon using Mrs. Slumber was lost when the player received an attack. So what, Saint Trina's sword? I'm guessing, so what, you would get hit and the buff would go away? I think it buffs your sword anyways. Like I think it's like any other mist spell where it goes out of mist and then buffs your sword for a bit. I don't think I've ever really used it. Fix the bug which caused playable characters' movement to become unstable upon hitting certain enemies with the skill Ghost Flame Ignition. I wonder if that's the bug that Zuli was talking about, where she was looking at complaints where people were saying that it looked really laggy, and it said it's the fact that Ghost Flame Ignition is basically like a projectile attack. You kind of stick it out. I think this is the one I'm thinking about, where you stick out the weapon and it creates this like lingering burst, and it rapid hits whatever it is, and it does the hit stop because it's technically a melee attack. Probably should start looking at more of these weapons to get some ideas and see if anything kind of catches my eye. Like the, the Clayman Harpoon? That weapon is on my radar now. Fix the bug which prevented player from using the Queen's Black Flame skill follow-up attack when performing the skill with insufficient FP. Isn't that expected then? Or I'm guessing then it would just not consume FP because it doesn't have any, but you just get a crappy version of it. You get like the empty swing. Fix the bug with the weapon skill Zamber Ice Storm, which allowed player to more easily withstand enemy attack when using skill with insufficient FP. So did you have more poise at that point? You have so I guess maybe they have a no FP version of the animation or something, and it has just had outdated properties. I need to see if that is actually any good. I know the spell is terrible. Samurai Storm, the spell is like one of the worst spells in the game. It's down there with like Explosive Ghost Flame and Tibia Summons. It's slightly better than those two if you ever hit with it, but it's pretty garbage. Ghost Flame at least is faster. Fix the bug which caused the effective spells and items added to right-hand armament to occur when using certain weapon skills with the left hand. I hope this is seppuku. I know, for example, this is probably the death pulley crossbow and the double bleed pulley crossbow. Every variation you can get of broken shit on that weapon. Sleep death bolts was great. Tested that a little bit earlier with style. Fix the bug which caused the FP consumption description of certain weapon skills to be different from its actual FP cost. I wonder which. It's funny too, because I've been looking through spreadsheets of data mine stuff, so I should know what these are, but I don't know off the top of my head which I might have thought were odd. The version of Fire Surge that I can't remember the name of, that one consumes like 4 per second, not the 1 per tick. Or what I should say is, it's like 4 per instance of damage, at least. It's probably more than that. It's a lot less efficient than it looks. Fix the bug that allows Rock Blaster to not consume any FP when using the staff on the left hand and no weapon on the right hand. Never heard of that. Would have been kind of interesting to try though. Oh, you know why? It's probably because it makes you do a two-handed animation, and you're sitting there channeling this thing, and it's probably free at that point. Fix a bug which caused the charged version of Black Flame Ritual to consume the same amount of stamina as the normal version. I have like no idea which spells cost different stamina as they're charged. If it's every single one, I would have never noticed. Fix the bug which caused the player to receive less HP recovery from incantation items other than the Flask of Crimson Tears when activating the effect of Melania's Great Rune. You know, I really should have tried this one more. Considering I did almost no PvE after beating Melania, I guess it makes sense I would have never noticed. I wonder what the regain is actually like now. I know in Bloodborne it was frustrating. It went away too quickly. A lot of other games with the same system did it a lot better. Probably the best example would have been Dead Cells. Fix the bug which caused the Opaline hard tier to not boost physical damage negation. So yeah, okay, so I was right. I figured this is bugged or the description was wrong, and I was totally right. Now it's probably actually worth using. Because elemental damage negation is like, okay, I can just roll this, or in the past it was Bloodhound steps, so nobody really cared. I wonder how long it lasts. I hope it's like a few minutes. I was rereading the description on the Crimson Roll tier, and that was like 15 seconds or something. Fix the bug which prevented the player from jumping midair while riding under a specific condition. Okay, so yeah, this is the one that I think was like mostly ultra great weapons, where you just plummet to your death, or miss a spirit spring or something like that. Somebody had made a tweet saying like it's mostly fixed or somewhat fixed or maybe works or whatever, but it's not perfect in 106. Sucks for anybody playing. Sucks for any new players though who are going in with an ultra great weapon thinking they're just going to smack everything, and taking quite a few tumbles with that. Fix the bug which allowed jump attack with colossal weapons while mounted to hit twice consecutively. Never seen that, but sure. I think I'm very much focused on the PvP stuff, so luckily these are not going to hit me at all. Fix the bug which caused some signs to appear more than once in the summoning pool. That's probably really important for the other change they made with the, they don't even have a name for it, just the new option to send out to everything. Oh, right. They also had, I'm not sure exactly why, but Mogwin Palace is excluded. I'm not super sure why. Kind of wanting to try some co-op just because of that change, though. Fix the bug which caused the effect of some weapon skills attack to persist under specific circumstances. I'm not actually sure what this is. If anybody could clue me in on what that fix is all about, let me know. Fix the bug which sometimes cause significant performance issue at Ordina Liturgical Town under certain circumstances. Haven't seen it, but I'll take it. I would want to bet it's something like maybe there's pathfinding issues between the Evergaol version and the regular one. Fix the bug which prevented the player from picking up dropped runes upon death under certain circumstances. Don't think I've ever seen it. Fix the bug which allowed users to reach certain inaccessible area during multiplayer. I really hope this fixes AFK farming. As far as I understand, they haven't made any changes to when you can pull out the Taunter's Tongue, so probably not. But I haven't heard anybody complaining that AFK farmers are still around, so who knows. Fix the bug which caused the multiplayer area to have different boundary than expected. Don't know if I've ever seen that. Fix the bug that caused some enemies to have incorrect visuals and behaviors. Doesn't sound familiar to me, but okay. Fix the bug that caused incorrect sounds to be played under certain circumstances. Also can't say I've seen that. Fix the bug which caused some areas to make the player unable to move, which leads to death. Don't know if I've seen that one. Fix the bug that caused some places on the map to have incorrect visuals and hitboxes. Maybe some speedrunner stuff. Not super sure. Fix the bug in some maps that allowed users to reach unexpected locations using certain procedures. I'm guessing this is more AFK farmer stuff, I hope. Fix the bug with the PC version which caused click input to occur when equipping staves or sacred seals and switching windows to active. Is this just alt-tabbing in and out? I mean, the expectation would be that if it doesn't have focus, the click to focus should be ignored. Except for focusing, of course. I see a lot of games make that mistake. Other performance improvements and bug fixes, hopefully the 2-minute disconnect is fixed, I hope. Maybe reduce the stuttering a bit as well. Whatever caching issue, hopefully they're working on that. Added the error text to unauthorized items. So I wonder if, what items would that even be then? Does anybody still have Deathbed Smalls? In Update File 104, we have fixed a bug that allows players to pass unauthorized items that cannot be attained in-game to other players. After the distribution of this update file, possession and usage of these unauthorized items will be subject to warning or penalty after a certain period of time. So in that case, I'm guessing probably Deathbed Smalls and maybe a couple other items then are going to get flagged. I don't think there's any problematic stuff that I'm aware of, so with the exception of maybe getting yourself banned from Twitch. The certain areas killing players are probably the spots in the catacomb areas where you can jump attack a wall, get stuck, floating, and die. Oh, that's rough. Some people troll by putting messages there. Oh, and then people try to jump to them, yeah. Well, that's fine, yeah. Reasonable fix. Not super important to me, but nice to have. General thoughts. Nerfing Rivers was good. The weapon is just the poster boy of broken shit in this game. Bloodhound Step, infinite iframes, hopefully that's all gone now. Glintstone Pebble and Dart, well, really just Pebble, honestly. Dart wasn't really an issue at all. Both really needed a range boost, honestly, especially if you're getting rid of the stagger. I don't really like, even though it was super favorable for me, I really don't like anybody having like a very convenient one shot, especially for Pebble, where it's really quick, it's not very flashy, you can get clipped by it really easy. It doesn't look like they've made any changes to Ultra Greatsword crouching pokes, which kind of sucks, because those are just busted. I'd rather buff the rest of the boost set and not have crouching pokes be super strong. Greatswords are now kind of on my radar. I really want to see how they are now. Normally I avoided Greatsword because they just weren't that great. No pun intended. Light armor is now on my radar now, especially as my caster build. Considering that thing can't take hit anyways, might as well just be mobile. In fact, it might even be worth putting on Bloodhound Step with that, just to have that extra mobility. Quick Step I kind of wanted to try. I want to see what it looks like now. It could be really ridiculous for dagger build. I'm hoping that's what they're intending, like super, super light, very, very high stamina dagger build. Or, fist weapons or whatever. Just like get in there, pummel somebody, be a whirlwind, embrace that fantasy. So the lack of separation for this sucks. I want to know what is indented, what portion of this is not indented that needs to be. Because if guard counters are faster for every weapon, that's great. If guard counters are only increased for greatswords, curved greatswords, and great hammers, then pretty alright. Still good, it's all positive. There's a whole laundry list of weapons that are not Rivers of Blood and the Bloodhound Step Ash that I really want them to get fixed. I have this written down. Let me bring this up just so that I have the whole list in front of me. There's some stuff that I consider as egregious as Rivers of Blood, and I'm surprised that those haven't gotten any attention. Moonveil, dual scavenger swords, dual cross Naginata, dual Vike spears. I think just any dual status effect spears, so like frost, bleed, whatever. Not so much rot, because rot doesn't just like chunk you immediately. Even though I think being able to apply rot, especially at low level, and not having the rot boluses kind of sucks. Bolt of Grand Sacks, even though it's not an amazing weapon for its R1s, the skill is absurd. Considering you can just chunk somebody for potentially a one-shot further out than Loretta's Great Bow or Frenzied Burst, it doesn't make any sense for that thing to be that strong, have a projectile that fast, so little noise at a distance, and not have gotten nerfed yet. Even if it means increasing the power of the R1s, that's fine. Flaming Strike is the other one, too. So they fixed Glintstone Pebble, right? And that was like, you hit confirm into a guaranteed follow-up that can one-shot. But Flaming Strike is the same thing. You hit confirm into a guaranteed one-shot. And in fact, Flaming Strike is wider, it lingers longer, it costs 4 FP for the initial hit. It's, in many ways, a lot better than Pebble. I don't know why that didn't get nerfed yet. I wonder if they're going to make a later change, maybe like a hotfix, or, in another month or so. Maybe they'll go ahead and nerf the status effects, and that's why they haven't been super aggressive with stuff. Because right now, the build-up is really, really high for some of this stuff. Like, dual scavenger swords with Seppuku can just 2 or 3 bleed you in one combo, even if you have like 240 plus robustness. So it doesn't make any sense that they're that strong. Moonveil, similar. It's like the fastest projectile you could output out of a weapon skill, or anything, really. And it can do 2/3 damage very easily. Or it can one-shot, really. It's, it doesn't take much effort to one-shot somebody with a Moonveil. And it not only is it like the highest AR out of any of the projectile skills, out of most of the projectile skills, but it's a non-physical type, and it is really, really, really fast. It basically forces you to dedicate your attention to it, because if you get hit by it, you're fucked. And I know you can parry it, but that basically says you must have spell parry at all times, and that kind of sucks. Or you have to chase somebody with golden parry. Like the 106 changes with the patch seems a bit thin? Yeah, that was my initial impression. It's like, all good changes, but damn, there is some stuff that's been left behind. What I think is going to happen is that there's going to be a lot more viable stuff, but now the top stuff that remains is so strong now. The problem with removing part and not all of the big scary stuff, Moonveil, Scavenger Swords, previously Rivers of Blood, Dual Cross Naginata, Dual Vikes, all that kind of stuff. Now those are more dominant because there's less opposing choices. Not that I think that Rivers should have stayed, but the remaining top-tier stuff has got to get tamped down. I'm guessing Rivers got nerfed just because it was the big public one, but I really hope the other stuff's on the radar too. All in all, I think if they make more changes like this is fine. I doubt this is going to bring me back into full-scale PvP, because when you invade, there's always going to be dual scavenger swords, Moonveil, dual spears, all that kind of stuff. Both the Grand Sacks. You're always going to face one of those, and if you have one person running them and 1 or 2 other people running interference, it doesn't matter what you have. You're still screwed. because all those options require you to dedicate your full attention to them. Like, if anybody's running upon you with dual scavenger swords, you better get away from that because you're going to get bled, you're going to get stun locked. And that's the other thing, too. It's like, sure, you can try dodging it, but because the build-up occurs while you're dodging through your iframes, and it stuns you, you just get locked down. And one of the worst things that can happen to you if you're invading somebody is anything that screws up your movement. Tripping on something, getting staggered, any sort of like lava or tricky terrain, any of that sort of stuff immediately shuts you down as an invader. You must be mobile, and if you're not, you're screwed. That's also why I'm not a big fan of the madness stuff as well. Even though they significantly nerfed the stun duration, it's a death sentence.